Hello, everybody. Chris Gallagher here at the Preacher's Pen. Glad that you are with us. We are in our last study today, February 3rd of Matthew chapter 26. We're glad that you have been part of our study, and I hope that this study has been beneficial to you. Now, I want to share with you, we're going to pick up in Matthew chapter 26 and verse 57. If you haven't seen any of the Bible classes, go back on the Preacher's Pen and you can watch those Bible classes. You can go to our YouTube at youtube.com/ and put the @ symbol in our Preacher's Pen, or search for Preacher's Pen. You'll see our logo that's up there. You'll see the logo that's on your screen. Where is it? It's right here. And it'll say Matthew chapter 26. And you can see that playlist. Watch all of those classes. I would prefer you go over to Rumble, rumble.com/ Preacher's Pen, and you can see the information that is there. But let's dig into today's lesson a little bit as we talk about Jesus as he's moving towards the cross. He gets arrested. That's where we left off yesterday. And now he's before Caiaphas and the council. And it says that they had led Jesus in verse 57 of Matthew chapter 26. They led Jesus to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and elders have gathered. They've got this gathering already. They're setting the trap for Jesus. Here's what's unique, though. Unique is Peter's following him at a distance. Now, they want to put Jesus to death, but they can't find anybody who really wants to step forward because so many people have followed Jesus' teaching that they're unsure what they really need to say. Because the people are very confused. Because you have all of these religious people saying a lot of different things, and Jesus is seeking in his word to bring them back to where they truly need to be. So they are a little bit confused. But here's what happens. They finally found two people, and they came forward and said about Jesus, that Jesus, and they quoted him saying, "I am able to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days." Jesus was talking about that, and he left the temple in Matthew chapter 24. He was overheard in saying that. He was talking about his body, because they put a lot of faith in the religious symbol that is the physical temple, and they were overlooking the spiritual condition of what they needed to do. So, this is what happens. This high priest then says, "Have you no answer to make? What is it that these men testify?" Jesus says to the high priest, "I adjure you by the living God," the high priest said, "I adjure you by the living God, tell us if you're the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus says, "You have said it was so." The high priest asked the question, Jesus just said it, and you have this confrontation. Jesus says, "But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, coming on the clouds in the heaven." This is what prophetic language is found. Go all the way back to Isaiah and Ezekiel and Daniel. You'll see prophetic language there talking about Jesus. Jesus refers to this right here. The high priest then becomes very angry. It says it tore his robes, and he said, "He's uttered blasphemy." So then they spit on Jesus' face, they strike him, and then they are going to crucify him. He's deserving of death. Now, as all of this is happening, Peter is so close. It says, "Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl, just an average servant girl, comes up to Peter and says, 'You're with Jesus the Galilean.' And Peter says, 'No, I was not.' He denied it and said, even, 'I don't know what you mean.' As he went out from the entrance, so that is said, he leaves. Another servant girl, probably seen Peter walking with Jesus, says, 'This man was with Jesus of Nazareth.' This time, instead of just saying words, Peter denies it with an oath, and he says, 'I don't know the man. I don't know who you're talking about.' Then, after a little while, so there you have a space that's occurring as this mock trial of Jesus is taking place. It says the bystanders came up and said to Peter, 'You're one of them, for your accent betrays you.'" They knew him by his accent. It's a regional accent that's around that area. Just as we have regional accents, we have the southern accent, we have the northern accent, you have a western United States accent, you have an East Coast accent, you have a Texan accent, you have a northwest corner accent, and we develop those. We can't really hear it, but others can. So they heard the Galilean accent that Peter had. And Peter quickly denies it, and he evokes a curse on himself, and he says, "I don't know the man," and the rooster crowed. And Peter remembered those words. You see, we give Peter a lot of grief for following Jesus the way that he did. We give Peter a lot of grief because he denied Jesus. Peter sunk when he walked on the water. Peter did some things, and we go, it's Peter. But then we get to the book of Acts, in Acts chapter 2, Peter stands up with the 11, gives that amazing sermon, of course, inspired by the Holy Spirit. And Peter takes on a whole nother meaning for us. That is what I believe in the Scriptures. Just one of the things that we find is the power that's in spiritual growth, the absolute power that one has. Now, you have in Matthew chapter 26 various levels of this spiritual growth. And I want to go back and revisit those just for about 2 minutes as we close out our Bible class. And one of the things is, remember this, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the zealots, the scribes, the lawyers, they really, they did not want to grow. I think the exception to that is Nicodemus. They did not want to grow. They wanted to maintain their religious authority. They had all the answers. They had everything that they needed, and it was not going to be an issue for them, right? They just needed to get away with Jesus or do away with Jesus. But when Jesus visits Simon the leper's house, we looked at the very beginning, this woman comes up to him and anoints him with oil. And that is a spiritual growth. She realizes who Jesus is. The disciples, some that are around him, even said, why waste this? They're still on a little bit of a lower level, lower spiritual growth level, even though many of them have been following Jesus or walked with Jesus. Judas was a man of a spiritual growth level where he saw many different things, but chose not to believe in Jesus for whatever reason. He did that. So then when you have the Passover that's there, the disciples, they're having a meal with Jesus. They've graduated to this point in their life that they can have a meal sitting around the table with Jesus. It's going to be his final meal, final Passover meal that he's going to have before the crucifixion. Then after that meal, they sing a hymn and they go out and Jesus prays. And the disciples are absolutely exhausted. And they fall asleep. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. They are just so exhausted. In fact, that's where we see Jesus making the phrase, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Because we're able to see that. Then you have the trial that's there. They can't find any witnesses to Jesus. And finally, 2 people come up and say a phrase which is true. But all the Pharisees were concentrating on the physical and not the spiritual. And as a result, they missed Jesus. Peter got involved in the physical. He wondered if he confessed that he knew Jesus, what would happen to Peter? Well, he may have lost his life. He may have had the chance to run away. He may have been pressured to denounce Jesus. I mean, he did anyway. He denounced him 3 different times. But all of those things factor into our life, into who we are. Because as human beings, are we growing spiritually? You know, we're not physically walking with Jesus. We're spiritually walking with Jesus. But have we grown? Have we grown? As we read these accounts, are we growing in our conviction that Jesus is the Christ? Are we growing in our conviction that we can follow him? Are we growing in our conviction that he has a great place for us, and that place is called heaven? I would encourage you to think about that. Now, I want to encourage you again, if you haven't watched our Bible classes, please go over to our YouTube channel. You can find that by going to our website at preacherspen.org. While you're there, you'll notice 2 links up at the very top of the page. There is going to be a newsletter link. We encourage you to sign up for that. There is going to be a prayer page link. We encourage you to sign up for that. We've got a lot of things in store this year that we want to bring to you because we want to encourage you to follow Jesus. So sign up for those. Follow us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on TikTok. And just follow us that you can grow, because we want to assist you in creating better days today for a better life tomorrow. Hope you have an excellent day. Once again, check by the website, and we'll come back next week with a brand new chapter that we're going to study. Have a blessed day. We'll talk to you soon.